Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to a special episode. My name's Sean Waskrug. This is Brian Michaels. It's Batman week. You know, we're pretty excited, or I'm pretty excited, and Brian's growing excited, I guess, as the days get closer to the Batman, which is being released this week. Depending on where we drop this video, we're either going to drop this during the week before it comes out, or we'll drop it after it's come out. We haven't decided yet, or I haven't decided yet. But this is an episode that we were going to do on the franchise flashback of the Batman movie verse. But this is something that Brian and I have been talking about wanting to do since last year when we were watching the Weekend Crusaders, where it's basically recasting. But in this case, it's dream casting because these roles haven't been put on anybody yet. But this was something that Brian and I did a lot of, especially when we were doing our sneaker watches, where we'd be watching certain movies and we'd see a horrible actor, but they look closely resembling to someone that's a better actor and go, you know who we had cast in this role? This person. And we basically would recast the whole movie. It's something that Brian and I really had a lot of fun doing, and it's something that we're probably going to do a lot throughout the year. We just got to kind of find situations like this one where we can do this, and that's basically what we're doing here today. We are basically doing a fantasy dream casting of all the Batman characters that have yet to appear in the Batman, or at least we think hasn't appeared, because like I said, we haven't seen the movie yet. Obviously, we know Batman, Penguin, Catwoman, and the Riddler are all in this movie. Alfred. We don't know any of the... What's that?
Alfred.
And yeah, Alfred. Obviously, we don't know, and Gordon. We don't know any of the ones that we're talking about today. They could pop up in this movie and be like a cameo, like, to be, kind of like how Spider-Man always did with the Lizard. And like the Sam Raimi's like, well, he's gonna be the Lizard, so pay attention later, kind of thing. But that's basically what we're doing today. Is we're casting who we would want in this movie. Now, granted, we're trying to keep it in the realm of this world that Matthew Reeves has created for the Batman. Some of our picks may not fit, but they're just like we look at these people and we're like, I would love to see them as this character.
Oh yeah, this is all. I mean, this is exactly totally fantasy casting. Because again, we haven't seen the movie, so we can't say for sure. We can kind of get an idea for what the universe is like. We don't know.
Yeah.
But we don't know for sure what it's like. A lot of people they might not cast just because of other roles they're currently in and other superhero franchises, maybe within DC, maybe within Marvel, whatever. Some people just they could never assemble these casts based on
time.
It costs them too much to hire all these people. I don't know.
Yeah.
But.
Like I said, this is our dream of like I would love this cast, and some of them we have a few choices. We obviously have an actual pick, but we'll go over some like this actress, this actress, this actress. But ultimately, I'm going to pick this one for this role. And we're just having fun with this. It's just a fun video for us to do. We eventually had to start this because Brian was taking like 3 hours to make picks, and he kept changing and having to reshuffle everything.
I told him, like, you have to stop me at some point and say, we're locking it in, because otherwise I'll just keep changing my picks as I go and look up more people.
Whereas me, I've had my picks locked in for like 4 days. So I was like, I've been ready to go. So we're going to start off with this. Like I said, guys, this is strictly for fun. If you guys have your picks, let us know in the comments, whether it be on this video or on Facebook or wherever. Who do you guys want to see play these roles? And all these roles that we are mentioning here have been in a Batman movie before, whether it be the older Batmans, the Nolan Batmans, the Snyderverse, or even like Birds of Prey and stuff like that. All these characters have been in a Batman movie previously. We're not picking like Calendar Man, which actually Calendar Man wasn't a movie because he was in the Suicide Squad. But we're not picking
Man. These were all in Lego Batman. Had all of them. Come on.
Yeah, technically you're right. Lego Batman had Condiment King and all that. But we are picking kind of like the bigger name characters. But first things first, Batman needs some help. Because if he's going to fight his entire rogues gallery, he's got to have some help. So Robin is someone that we definitely would need. Granted, we've had Chris O'Donnell in the original 4 Batmans. He's not that great. And then, of course, we had, at the very, very last second, we had Joseph Gordon-Levitt in The Dark Knight Rises.
But he wasn't Robin. He was just Robin.
Yeah. Your name's Robin. Cool.
And
then, of course, we had Michael Cera in Lego Batman, who was awesome. So
we almost had Marlon Wayans.
That's just Blank Man.
Yeah, There was a time when they wanted to cast him as Robin. I'm just saying.
In which franchise? Which one?
I want to say this was before Chris O'Donnell got cast, but I'm not sure.
With Val Kilmer, that would have been weird. I mean, I don't hate it.
I can't remember for sure if it was that version of it. Yeah. Anyway,
I don't hate it, but I don't really love it either. But
yeah,
that's the way we're doing this. So we're starting with Robin. Now I have three people. Now I'm going with two different picks. I've got a younger version of Robin, and I've got an older version of Robin that's kind of more like Chris O'Donnell to Val Kilmer kind of age. And then I've got one more of a younger version. Now I'm going Dick Grayson for both of these. I'm not doing like a Tim Drake or Jason Todd or Damian Wayne. Granted, we could, but Brian's Batman verse knowledge is strictly kind of Dick Grayson.
I know there's a Robin. I didn't realize. I mean, I think I in the back of my head I heard there were different Robins, but I don't know stuff.
Yeah, so we're strictly going Dick Grayson, but we have two different choices. We have an older Robin and we have a younger Robin. I'll go first. I'll go younger Robin first. I wanted someone, and like I said, we had to kind of gauge it because it's Pattinson. Pattinson, I mean, in real life, he turns 36 this year, but he doesn't look 36.
I don't think he's playing that old in this movie.
I don't think he is either. He's probably playing mid-20s.
And
stuff like that. So you got to kind of pick someone a little, obviously younger. And a lot of these picks, for the most part, is us gauging where they have Bruce Wayne's age in this film. And we're not saying that Robin's going to be in any of these movies. Granted, we're thinking there's probably going to be 3 of these. It could be more. But we're just saying if they were going to do it, this is who we'd pick. And for me, the younger Robin, when I see this actor, well, I had 2 of them. But the one I originally had was Jack Dylan Grazer. But he's in Shazam, and he's also part of the Shazams now. So I can't really use him anymore. But I think he actually would have been a pretty good Robin. So I kind of had to remove him.
This is not DCEU.
Exactly. No. But it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to see him as Robin and then all of a sudden look over here and it's like, oh, he's Shazam or one of the Shazams. So I removed him from my options. So I went with this character or this actor. I really liked him in the one movie I've seen him in, and he's on a Netflix TV series right now that's very well loved. I've never seen the TV series, but I want to bring him back into the movie fold. And I think I look at him and I'm like, I can see a Dick Grayson's Robin in this character or in this actor, and that's Asa Butterfield from Ender's Game and Sex Education. I think he's got the right look. I think, granted, I don't want him in the cartoon Robin spandex thing or the Batman 66, but he's not buff. He's lean. He can kind of be more of an agile Batman. But granted, I mean, Pattinson's not necessarily a buff Batman either. But I feel like Asa, is it Asa or Asia?
It's Asa.
Asa. I feel like Asa. I feel like he can play the darker kind of tone to the Batman film, but also bring some levity to it because we can see he can do comedy with Sex Education, but also he can play the darker tones with Ender's Game. I think Asa would be a good younger Robin. What was your younger Robin?
I really struggled with Robin, as I already told you, but because I know it's just because Robert Pattinson at that age, like you said, 35, but probably playing maybe high 20s. We don't know for sure, but it's
at least 25.
I don't want anybody too close to him, or you don't have that whole, boy wonder kind of, he's this young psychic, but I don't want to go too young. And a lot of the sites were pitching all the Stranger Things and It kids, and they're all too young or too goofy to me. I didn't think that any of that they really fit to it.
So many people want to Wolfhard. I'm like, no.
But if I was, actually I got something to say, but we'll get to that. But for the younger one, the one person I could kind of see if they wanted to go this direction with it, is his name is Gregory Diaz IV. Nobody knows that it is.
I don't know who that is.
He played Sonny in The Heights. The young man who's he couldn't go to college, and so he's going to try and get him to stay in the country. It's I think the age is right, where he's not too young, but he's not too old, and he's too close to Pattinson. I think that he's got definitely a young look to him. I could see him in the costume. He's not a buff guy, but he can always get more buff. He's pretty kind of a scrawny kid. But I mean, I can see him doing probably the agility and action stuff. I mean, clearly he did a lot of dancing in this movie and in The Heights. So it's just you know what? It's not pick that jumps out at you, but as I was looking through people, I'm like, yeah, I can totally see that.
Once you said Sonny from the Ham, I'm like, I don't hate that. I don't know if he meshes with the tone of that.
That's the big question, is the tone.
But I don't hate the choice.
But I have also not seen him in any other movie except for that. So maybe he does dark drama better. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen him in anything else either. So I don't hate that option. For me, going older Robin. Now, when I say older, I'm talking about maybe like 2 years younger than Pattinson in terms of like I said, kind of Kilmer, Chris O'Donnell thing where like he's younger, but not too young. I wanted someone who I know can do drama. I know he can be funny as well, but he also kind of has a physicality where I can believe him to kind of be an ass kicker. Granted, I haven't really seen him in anything really ass kickery, and the one movie I can kind of say he was a badass in was a horrible film. I don't blame him for that film, but I really look at him. I go, I can see him kind of more as a Tim Drake, but I can see him as a Robin, and that is Jack Raynor. People know Jack Raynor from Sing Street. He was in Transformers, Age of Extinction. He was also in Midsommar. I feel like Jack, he can definitely do comedy. We saw that in Sing Street. He also do dramatic roles too, also in Sing Street and Midsommar. And then, like I said, action-wise, he did the Transformers film. I feel like he actually, I think, would be a very good combination with Pattinson in the role. Granted, I don't think he's really a buff guy, but I feel like his build, he could be a buff guy. If they actually like, hey, 3 to 6 months, you're going to go train to be Robin. I think Jack Raynor could actually be a very good Robin, and also someone that could progress into a Nightwing type of role. And that's why I picked Jack Raynor for the older Robin. What was your older Robin?
My older Robin, kind of like you, I was like, I don't want somebody who's real close to his age, but if you wanted an older one who could be more into the action stuff already, not be like the little kid, I picked a guy who he's still been playing high school kids up until at least a couple of years ago, and that's as much as I said I was avoiding I didn't like the kids from Stranger Things. One of the older kids, Daker Montgomery from
Red Ranger.
Yeah, and he was also in Power Rangers. Yeah, he's basically Zac Efron light.
I don't hate that pick either.
What's that?
I don't hate that pick either.
Yeah, but he's I think young enough, or at least has been recently playing still young enough that you could take him as like the protege and not necessarily the equal. He's still kind of like the sidekick. But he definitely, I think, has the physicality and stuff where he could play like if they went into like Nightwing, where he's like a real kick-ass kind of hero. And so he's my pick.
I actually really like that pick. I really do. I love Jack Raynor, but if they announced that,
I love Jack Raynor, but honestly, I look at Jack Raynor and I think he could be the same age or older than Robert Pattinson.
Like he eventually, if they made him
definitely bigger than Robert Pattinson.
I would say, like, if they made him like Nightwing, be like, perfect.
Yeah,
I want him as my Nightwing, which he has to be Robin first because Robin progresses to Nightwing. Right. But yeah, so on top of having the sidekick, he also had to have the other sidekick, which is Batwoman. Now, granted, we do know Leslie Grace is playing Batgirl in an HBO Max series, but that's going to be saying kind of more the Snyderverse mixture,
we think,
kind of thing. So obviously, this is all into the Pattinson verse or the Matt Reeves verse. Once again, just like Robin, I picked two versions. I picked a younger Batwoman that would basically be opposite of Asa, and then I picked one that would be opposite Jack Raynor. So two different age groups. The older one, I just love her. There's no way she would fit the tone of these films unless they really like dedicated her to be kind of a darker character, which I would love to see a darker version of her. The younger one, I know she can do dark films because I've seen her on Netflix be able to do some high caliber drama, but a lot of people only know her from comedy. And for the younger one, I think a perfect Batwoman or Batgirl in this case would be Caitlyn Beaver from Booksmart. Especially up against with Asa. Obviously she can do comedy, but anyone who saw, I'm blanking on the name of the show. I hate calling it the rape show because that's basically what it is. But it's
I know what you're talking about. You talk all like
Unbelievable. I think it's what it's called, Unbelievable on Netflix. And then she also did Dope Sick on Hulu.
It is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. Yeah, Unbelievable and also Dope Sick. Deaver can do drama. And I feel like that one thing we haven't seen her do is action. And I think that she could be a pretty good Batgirl, Batwoman type of character if we want to go the younger side of it. And I think her with Asa, I think that would be a good combination with Pattinson. What would be your younger Batgirl, Batwoman?
Honestly, I didn't put a whole lot of thought into the younger one, simply because like the Batgirl I've always been familiar with is more the one that's closer to Batman's age. So I didn't actually put a whole lot of thought into that one until you mentioned Caitlyn Beaver. I think is a really good choice. My choices are kind of all somewhere in the middle. It's because the one person who I've said I would love to see as when they were casting Batgirl or Batwoman, whatever the series is called, Batgirl, I think it is. The one person I said I want in this role was Zoe Deutsch. But I don't know if she fits in this Pattinson universe, but I'd still give her the role just because she's Zoe, and I think she could kick butt in that role. There are two other ones I considered. I briefly thought Haley Steinfeld, I think, would be very good for it, but I think it'd be way too close to what she's already doing now with Kate Bishop. Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to think we're in Kate Bishop in Hawkeye. And the other one I thought of was Zazie Beetz as Batgirl, but I think she might come across too close to Zoe Kravitz and kind of what she's doing with that role. So I don't know. So I settled on Zoe Deutsch.
And for the first time, we are equal.
Hey.
I also have Zoe Deutsch. My other option, and she also is my option for Poison Ivy, who we're going to talk about a little bit later, was Anya Taylor-Joy. Because what can Anya do that's not awesome? She's amazing in everything she does, but I really want to see Zoe Deutsch as a Batwoman, and that's who I have Zoe Deutsch with Jack Raynor in this.
I have one other one I had thought of for Batgirl, but I ended up putting her in a different role. I'm not sure if I want to bring her up now or not, but I'll talk about it.
Because Anya's not my pick for Poison Ivy. She's my number 2 pick, so I'm bringing her up now because she's a honorable mention for Poison Ivy.
Okay.
But yeah, Zoe Deutsch. So we actually have a match, and I don't know Brian's picks ahead of time. Brian doesn't know my picks, so I think he might know my Joker. But other than that, I don't
remember it. I think you mentioned it.
Okay, good. So you don't remember. So yeah, so it's funny that we both went the same lane with this. I think Zoe Deutsch, if she plays even remotely close to like Buffaloed, I think she could potentially be able to be in this world. I just really want to see Zoe Deutsch as Batwoman, Batgirl. But yeah, if not, Anya Taylor-Joy, I think would crush it in that role. But yeah, so those are our Robins and Batwoman / Batgirl. Now we're gonna go to the villains. This villain is he's never gonna be the main villain, but you gotta have someone that is kind of like a henchman or someone that Batman can kind of beat the crap out of throughout the film. I mean, that's what kind of looks like Penguin is in this movie that's coming out. Same thing with how Scarecrow was in the Nolanverse. He was never really the main villain. He was just always kind of like the B villain of the film for Batman to kind of deal with until the final boss battle. And that character is Victor Zsasz. For anyone who knows who Victor Zsasz is, he was in Birds of Prey. So we've seen his character before, and he was also in Gotham. Basically, he's a serial killer who basically marks or cuts his skin for every kill he's had. So he's got scars all over himself from all of his many, many kills. And so for me, I am choosing someone because it is Matthew Reeves. And I think Matthew Reeves is also a very loyal director. Clearly, we're seeing that in terms of Andy Serkis is playing Alfred, and he was Caesar in the Planet of the Apes films. And I think that Matthew Reeves is going to see this one actor who we all loved his performance in the Apes films and says, hey, you do a lot of mocap stuff. I want to put you in front and put you on screen. He has done he's actually got a show on Apple TV right now. But I want to see him in this role as Victor Zsasz, and that's Toby Kebbel. I want to give him something that wasn't Doctor Doom in Fantastic Four Stick. That was atrocious. I want Toby to kind of be able to just play this unhinged character. Now, if I wasn't gonna, I do have two other choices for Zaz, but those same two choices are also my backups for Joker. So I'm not gonna say them because of the exact same picks for my Joker. But I think Toby Kebbel is a character that he's not going to overtake the camera, but we need to get him out there and give him a chance to kind of be able to do these roles. And I think Matthew Reeves would give Toby Kebbel a moment to do this. And that's why he'd be my Victor Zaz. Well, who's your Victor Zaz?
My Victor Zaz is like it's funny the way you described him because he's a person who's made a career out of playing the second banana, whether it be he plays henchman number one instead of like the main villain, or whether he plays, hero's sidekick number one in so many movies. And that's an actor I know we both like, and that's James Badgedale.
I do love James Badgedale.
James Badgedale, who you might know from Iron Man 3, you might know from he was on 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. He's done a ton of other stuff, but I'm not gonna remember it all right now. But he's just an actor who has like a certain intensity to him, especially when you do get to see him play bad guys. I think he comes across real well. You can get that kind of psychotic nature to him. Yet he's also comes across as one of those guys who's like, he really is. He's not just like the dumb villain. He's definitely got an intelligence behind him, which makes him even scarier. And like you were saying with Toby Kebbel, it's kind of the same argument where this is a guy who's put in solid work in so many movies and things, and I just want to get his name out there more and get him more lead roles.
There is someone when you said your pick, another person popped in my brain real quick. I was like, oh, he'd be a good Victor Zaz too, and that's Logan Marshall Green from Upgrade, and he was also in Spider-Man: Homecoming. He would also be a good one as well. But I really like your pick and my pick. Either way, I think that'd be a good Victor Zaz.
I had my runner-up for Victor Zaz. I don't think we've ever seen him play this kind of role. Well, I won't count that other comic book movie. But to be able to play somebody with a little bit psychotic, I don't think I've ever seen that. I kind of like to see him play this side of it, especially somebody who scars himself. And that's Riz Ahmed. I think I'd kind of like to see him play a role like this.
I was going through my picks in my brain, and I Riz Ahmed stopped on me, and I was like, nope, Venom, nope.
Yeah, that's just it. Because of Venom, that's why he was only my runner-up.
Like, I would pick him in a heartbeat if I didn't hate his Venom role.
I don't think it was because of him.
But his Venom role, he was horrible as a villain in that movie. But he would be a good Victor Zaz.
Yeah.
But because I mean, because Victor Zaz, and because you don't really know Victor Zaz that well. Victor, you know who's a
I only know him from Chris Messina in Birds of Prey.
So. Yeah, but you know who actually would be a perfect Victor Zaz? It'd give you a mindset. Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler, but a serial killer. That's Victor Zaz.
Okay.
So like intellectual, but just unhinged crazy. It's basically Nightcrawler in a sense. For Scarecrow, that's what we're going to next. Scarecrow, once again, he's a great villain, but they don't ever tend to give him a lead villain role. He always is kind of a B-level villain, and that's where I'm going to kind of treat him in this as well. Because I think in this world, the Pattinson world, much like the Nolanverse, I think Scarecrow could be a fantastic villain. And I want to give it, once again, somebody who's a fantastic actor that has really not gotten a, hey, world, I'm here. He's played a lot of comedies, but he's also done pretty good dramas, and one is a very, very popular HBO show. He was at least in the first season, from what I remember, and he was fantastic in it. Before I say who he is, my other two options for Scarecrow, one was Bill Skarsgård, because we've seen him as Pennywise, and let's put him, in another scary role. I think Bill Skarsgård would be pretty solid. And then number two was Adam Driver. But if you're going to have Adam Driver in this, he needs to be a top of the list villain, which Adam Driver would be a great Scarecrow, but I don't think Scarecrow is going to be the main villain in any of these films. So my pick would be, and a lot of people, you'll know him from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and that's Jimmy Simpson.
Okay.
I think Jimmy Simpson is a phenomenal actor, and I've seen him do great things. Westworld was the movie I was talking about on HBO, where he can do some drama. I think a lot like Cillian Murphy, I think he'd be a perfect, crazy Scarecrow kind of character. Like I said, give someone who's not a big name. Everyone's gonna go, who the fuck's Jimmy Simpson? But then you look him up, they're like, oh, that guy.
And I have him do some dramatic work too. Yeah.
Yeah, and you put him in the forefront of being this creepy guy who can make everyone terrified of themselves and their worst fears. And I would love to give Jimmy Simpson that role. For you, Scarecrow, you were kind of like, you really only had, I guess, like what, the Cillian Murphy kind of mindset with it.
Well, I have that, and I have like the old like Justice League cartoons, Super Friends. That's my extensive knowledge on Scarecrow for the most part. So Cillian Murphy is kind of what I. But again, we got to look at this universe and try to see what's going to fit. And I actually ended up going with somebody who has played a lot of villains. He's played a lot of comic book characters. He's played a lot of different things. Almost always hidden behind a lot of makeup and stuff, though. So why not just let him play a lead role? Well, yeah, he's going to have the mask on part of the time.
I already know where you're going with this, and
Doug Jones.
Yeah, I was like, I don't hate your pick. It's Doug Jones.
Doug Jones, who I mean, he plays Abe Sapien in the Hellboy movies. He's played everything from Hocus Pocus to Legion to he's on Star Trek Discovery now. I think he's been in a couple of Blade movies as well because he does a lot of stuff with Guillermo del Toro. But he's a guy who he definitely physically has a role. I've seen him do in some of the stuff, so he's done like more scary, intimidating thing. I'd have to hear what he uses for a voice, to be Scarecrow to make sure he's intimidating enough. But again, this is a theme we got going here. An actors that we think need recognition, and this guy, he gets recognition amongst people who are like really in these kind of movies and or in movies, especially genre films. They know who Doug Jones is. The vast majority of the public has no idea who this is, even though they've probably all seen 10 movies that he's been in. It's like, hey, you need a skinny guy in a monster costume. He's your guy.
He's a lot like I'm probably gonna say his name wrong. Is Tom Hopper who plays Jason? Todd or Tom Hopper? He's always plays the body of Jason in the Friday the 13th movies.
Kane Hodder.
Hodder, thank you, Hodder.
Kane Hodder, yeah,
Hodder, and it's like everyone knows who he. Like if you say his name, no one knows who the hell he is. But you go, the guy who plays Jason, you're like, oh, but no one knows his face because he's always wearing a hockey mask. And Doug Jones is that way. He's always just got makeup on, like I said, Shape of Water. He was the fish in that movie. But yeah, no, he would have been. I just don't know the reason why I didn't pick him. Like, because I looked at him like he's got the body frame for Scarecrow. I just haven't seen enough of him acting wise.
And then my runner up actually has kind of much the same physicality of him. But he has been seen acting. I think he won an Oscar even at one point. And that's Adrian Brody. I could totally see him playing that.
Brody, and he hasn't really done a whole lot lately. So giving him something that he can kind of.
I just saw a movie he came out with called Clean, which it kind of felt like it wanted to be John Wick, although it didn't lean that far into the action. It's the guy who clearly had this past that, he was violent and he did some work for the mom or whatever. And then came back and had to fight against these bad guys who, anyway. But so I got to see. Huh?
Was it any good?
It was decent. It was decent. It's definitely the kind of thing that would go straight to VOD and stuff like that. Yeah. But it was, you got to kind of see a darker side of him. And I could see it working.
Gotcha. All right. So next we're going to go to Poison Ivy. Now Poison Ivy, I kind of was like, obviously it's got to be someone sexy as hell because that's Poison Ivy.
I had a long list I had to narrow down for this one. Yeah.
I mean, her whole essence is being this sexy woman that Batman and Robin or whoever will just fall for because of, the neurotoxins and stuff from the plants. So you got to have someone that A, is easy on the eyes, 2, has some physicality because she has like that kind of like almost like Harley Quinn, like gymnastics kind of fighting style, and just as someone that you can just go, oh my god, damn, like hell yeah. And I, like I said, Anya Taylor-Joy, she was one of my choices for this role. My other choice that I didn't pick, and this is because she is a little bit older than Pattinson. I would love her in this role, but I don't think she would flow with the age because I'm going with a kind of more of like around the same age of Pattinson, if not a little younger. But that's the reason why I didn't pick her would have been Rebecca Ferguson. If she would have been like kind of more like in Dr. Sleep, I think she'd be a great Poison Ivy. But I didn't pick her. I ended up going with someone that you and I both love. And if we're thinking of gorgeous women, you can't look further than Ana de Armas. Ana de Armas as Poison Ivy. We know she can do physical roles because we saw her in No Time to Die last year, and she was the best part of that movie. And you give her the red hair, which is something we haven't really seen her in yet. I think her with Pattinson would be like, I can buy that. I can totally buy that. Yeah, we got to get her in this movie. She was going to be my choice for Talia al Ghul, but then I was like, I also had the girl that I ended up picking for Talia al Ghul, and I was like, no, I want her as Talia. I got to move her to Poison Ivy. Like I had to do like a whole lot of like changing around. But Ana de Armas as Poison Ivy was my pick. Who is your Poison Ivy?
So Ana de Armas was a runner-up for Poison Ivy. For all the same reasons you gave, as well as another person who I'm going to talk about later because I used her in a different role. I don't want to spoil this pick because I don't know if we're on the same page on that one. But Ana de Armas is definitely considered. But the one I picked, I wanted somebody roughly the same age, obviously, because I mean, even though it's nothing that says Poison Ivy has to be about Batman's age, there always is kind of that seductive kind of side. So there's some kind of chemistry going on there. Like you said, she's got a really smolder, just a look of the eyes or whatever it is can do it for you. And she's a good actress, and she's even played kind of villains before, and that's Natalie Dormer.
I had her as an option. She was like number 4 or 5, and I had to chop her off because I had too many picks.
Natalie Dormer, who most of you might know as Marjorie Tyrell from Game of Thrones. She was also Cressida, I believe, in the Hunger Games. Yeah. But she's done a bunch of other stuff as well. I think she's somebody that is beautiful as hell. And she's definitely got those eyes. I could definitely like have a seductive kind of look that Poison Ivy has.
If they were ever going to make a live-action Lola Bunny.
Yeah, except now they desexualize Lola Bunny, so you
yes,
can't do that anymore.
But
I won't talk about that right now. But she's definitely got that. She's got the acting chops. She's got. I think she can play a villain. I think she can, but she can still kind of play that thing where you kind of understand why Batman would be seduced by her. Just everything about her, I just think works perfectly. So
she really needs to get pushed into the forefront too.
And again, somebody that I want to have more success. Yes.
She was on my
list. Listen to us. These are the people you should be casting.
Yes, she was on my list, and I cut her because I just had like 5 women for Poison Ivy, and I was like, there needs to be more female roles.
That's the problem. We had what?
I would have made her Catwoman, but Catwoman's already been casted.
We had 3 female roles to fill, and we had all these women. Like, we want all these people in something.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't want to just say, generic girl that Bruce is going to date while he's also Batman kind of thing. Yeah. And granted, I know there's some other female characters in the Batman verse, but these are the ones that have been in previous Batman films. Natalie is, I really liked her. I would love to have cast her for Poison Ivy. Next is Mr. Freeze. This is literally the only role, I guess, outside of Talia now, that I don't have a backup for. And what's funny, and this is how I decided we're doing a recast show for this, is I was driving to work, and I always am kind of like, have my cell phone playing like Watch Mojo or something like that. And it was going over the 20 best Batman villains. And it brought up Mr. Freeze. And it's mainly, for the most part, showing the animated series. It's not showing Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'm watching the clips of the animated series of Mr. Freeze. And I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, God, the actor that I immediately am just like connecting to is this actor. And I was like, I would love to see this actor as Mr. Freeze. And then I was like, hey, Brian, let's do a cast show for the Batman. So this is literally the reason for the show.
Hey, I know it's short notice. Can you come up with a list in 2 days? I'm like, I guess.
Yeah, because we were going to do it on the franchise show. So it was like, hey, can you come up with a list by tonight for this? But yeah, so my pick for Mr. Freeze, I want someone, they got to be bald because Mr. Freeze is bald. But he's also an intellectual because he's a scientist. He's a doctor. He's got, but he can also have the physicality of being someone menacing. I don't want someone brutish like Arnold. I want someone who's, because in the animated series, he's a slender dude, but he has the ability to outsmart Batman with the freeze, stuff. So I want someone who's intellectual, but can look scary and just can really play this role. And the only person that pops into my brain is Mark Strong. Mark Strong is a phenomenal villain. We've seen it in Sherlock Holmes. We've seen it in Kick-Ass. but he can be an intellectual as well. We saw that in The Kingsman. And I feel like with his structure, he could fit in that Mr. Freeze outfit perfectly. And I personally, now granted, you could have someone who could be like, oh shit, that's a good pick too. But I cannot see anyone play Mr. Freeze but Mark Strong.
I have actually a couple picks for Mr. Freeze.
Okay. I'm actually intrigued with this.
No, I don't think they have to be bald to play the role, although all three of these people have played bald roles.
Have you seen Mr. Freeze ever with hair?
But I'm saying in this iteration of it doesn't have to be hair. But a lot of people have been bald before. But I wanted somebody who could play intelligent, because obviously they're these master scientists. Somebody who can also be sympathetic, because I mean the whole thing, Mr. Freeze, is his whole thing started when he was trying to help his terminally ill wife. I mean, things have changed, like in a different way, like the Arnold version versus comics, things like that. But that's one thing that's always been things.
That's always been the crux.
This tragedy happened to him when he was trying to help his terminally ill wife, and then everything just builds from there. So it had to be somebody who you can at least like a little bit. So they tend to be actors I actually enjoy. I can see Mark Strong in this role, by the way. Let me just say that. I think that's a great pick. The first one I briefly considered, this is a runner-up, was Bryan Cranston.
He was the only other one that I brought up, and then I was like, I'm so 100% dedicated to Mark Strong, I just deleted him off my sheet.
But it almost feels like he would just be playing the same character again, because he's a teacher, he's this intelligent scientist, basically, who has this tragedy and his own cancer diagnosis, whatever, and then becomes this essentially kind of a villain or anti-hero, whatever you want to call him. So I'm like, you know what? Let's not do that. My other runner-up, who I could see, it's just another actor I love, although he actually gets a lot of respect. People know who he is, and that's Djimon Hounsou. He doesn't necessarily play like the super intelligent scientist like that, but he could. And I think he has the intimidating kind of atmosphere to him that he could play this role. Again, bald. There you go. But the person I picked for this is not physically intimidating in any way, shape, or form. But I totally can see him playing the super intelligent person who's going to outsmart you. He can play intimidating. He can play, he can manipulate you. And that is yet another Game of Thrones alum, Peter Dinklage. It would be a different take on it, because he's obviously, I could totally see him playing the role of Mr. Freeze.
I love Peter Dinklage, but to me, it was just like a little kid trying to shoot a gun.
Well, that's just it. If you're thinking of it as a physically intimidating villain, no, he's not going to be that. If he's a guy who's not going to be in physical fights, though, then yeah.
I would love Dinklage in these films. I really would. I couldn't see him as Mr. Freeze though. but I would love Dinklage in anything in this. I just don't. Firefly would be a good Peter Dinklage in my opinion. But
I don't know who that is, but okay, cool.
he's an arson dude who flies. But yeah, okay. Dinklage. All right.
I can tell you don't check off on that one. Like, no, thanks.
No, that's the only one. I was like, I would love him in the movies, but I don't know if I can buy him as Mr. Freeze. Now the next role that we're gonna do, I could see him as that, which would be Two-Face. I can see Dinklage as Two-Face.
I could see him in that. I have like 4 other people for that too, though.
Yeah, no, I've got 3 people for Two-Face. For me, for Two-Face, you need someone who can look good in a suit because they're a lawyer. You need someone who can talk very well, but then have the crazy side to him. Aaron Eckhart, I think, did a fantastic job. And Aaron Eckhart didn't go over the top cartoony with like Tommy Lee Jones did. And even if you watch the animated series, Two-Face never is like crazy. Two-Face, for the most part, is playing the good side, but is doing villain shit, which is what I would see Two-Face in this film, is someone who's an intellectual, who has a connection to Batman. Because like in most of the like animated series and stuff like that, outside of the Batman or the OG Batmans with Tommy Lee Jones, Harvey Dent is like a really close friend to Bruce Wayne. They're best buds. In the thing. So when he becomes Two-Face, that is more of a connection of tissue to Batman, other than just this generic crazy villain that Tommy Lee Jones tried to play. One of my runners up, and this was more or less just because of like a callback to everybody, was Daniel Radcliffe as like, hey, remember Cedric Diggory? Now it's Batman. But that's more just a fun pick for me. I I wouldn't hate it because I think Radcliffe could totally pull it off, but definitely not my choice. My number 2, which I really wanted, but I was like, because of his previous role, I was like, no, we can't give him this, and that's Tom Hiddleston. I think Tom Hiddleston could be a perfect Two-Face, but he has solidified himself as Loki, and it would be really, really hard to picture him as Two-Face when he's still playing Loki right now.
Right. Well, I'll say that because he's not my pick later on. He's somebody I thought about seriously for Joker, because he'd make a perfect Joker. If it was going for that atmosphere, because the Joker could go different ways. But then B, because of the Loki thing, I'm like, no, I can't use it.
If he had stopped playing Loki after the first Thor, or even after Endgame, then I'd be like, okay, cool, because he's moving on. But because of the Loki series and him continuing with the Loki series, I'm like, I would love him as a Two-Face, but I can't buy him as a Two-Face. So my pick for Two-Face is someone who, in terms of TV, he's a top star. But in movies, I like him in a lot of the movies he's in, but he's never gotten that here. You're the lead villain kind of thing. Because I can see Two-Face as a lead villain. And I want this guy. And honestly, it was not the Super Bowl, but there's a commercial going on right now where he's literally talking about how he's underappreciated, and that's Jon Hamm.
There it is.
Jon Hamm. Give me Jon Hamm as Two-Face. He can talk. We've seen it in Mad Men. He can wear us the shit out of the suit, and we've seen his crazy side because of Baby Driver.
I was going to bring that up exactly. Baby Driver, yeah.
He can totally play this character, and with Pattinson, he can almost kind of treat Pattinson as like, oh, Bruce Wayne, mentor. Hey, how's it going? We're best buds. And then just go crazy with the Two-Face side. I think Jon Hamm would be a perfect Two-Face. What were your thoughts? You seemed like you knew where I was going. So I was like, is he your pick?
Jon Hamm was my pick, yes.
So we matched up twice. We've had some honorable mentions match up, but we actually had like an actual pick. So who are your other picks since Jon Hamm's your pick?
So Jon Hamm was my pick, and I think the thing that secured it for me was Baby Driver, because you got to see him play kind of that, just the aggressive, the villain, essentially. And so it kind of showed that he could play kind of, off his hinges kind of thing. I had 3 runner-ups I considered. One of them being another TV star mainly, and that is Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Is kind of the same kind of person as Jon Hamm, and that he plays a lot of nice guys, father figures kind of things. But then he's gotten to play obviously Negan in Walking Dead,
and he was Thomas Wayne.
So obviously he can do that. He was Thomas Wayne too.
Yeah,
forgot about that. So he can play like kind of the evil side of it as well. But Jon Hamm definitely edged him up for that. The other ones I considered, another one in the same kind of mold as those two. Another underappreciated actor, Garrett Dillahunt.
I love Garrett Dillahunt.
This is the guy who always plays supporting roles, but he plays everything from psycho killers to like the goofiest fucking dad you've ever seen on Raising Hope. This is a guy who can do all kinds of different roles, and when he does get serious and intimidating, he's really intimidating. So I thought it'd be fun to see him get to play kind of both sides of that one. And again, an underappreciated actor. And my last choice, who I considered for this, but then Jon Hamm, I think, easily took it for me. Somebody else who I don't know if you do it because he's in this comic book franchise, Chiwetel Ejiofor. I could see him.
I think a lot of it would depend on how Multiverse of Madness portrays him.
Because we know him as Modor, who was a good wizard, but now he's apparently a villain.
Jaded villain wizard.
So we don't know how he's going to play that or how it's going to play out. But I could see Chiwetel being able to play again both sides of this character. That's the main thing about this character. You have to be able to have 2 distinct sides to you, literally and figuratively. So, but I think he's a guy who is capable of playing it. And again, while a lot of people nowadays, more people know who he is, he still doesn't get the starring roles in like big films. He gets big roles in small films and small roles in big films.
You know who we forgot? Granted, I still think Jon Hamm's the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
You know who we forgot? Oliphant.
Yeah.
Timothy Oliphant.
Because I'll say kind of this is something I was going to talk about later. Oliphant's one of the names that jumped into my mind for Joker, but I'm like, I think he's too old now to play Joker.
I
But
think he would fit in Scarecrow, Mr. Freeze, Two-Face territory. I don't
I
think
could
he would
see him
fit
playing Two-Face. Yeah.
because he can wear a suit. And I think he can go off of serious to where he's funny, but then he can snap like that way. We saw that in Girl Next Door.
I agree with you. I really like him, but I still think Jon Hamm's the pick.
Jon Hamm's the perfect choice.
Yeah.
If they do Two-Face and they don't pick Jon Hamm, I'm going to be upset. So next is Bane. And with Bane, I mean, we've seen shitty Bane in Batman and Robin. We've seen, and at least in my eyes, a very good Bane in Tom Hardy. But Bane is kind of all over the place. Like in animation, he's treated as his force. But then also in animation, if we look at the Harley Quinn show, he's treated as a joke. But with my Bane, I want him to be treated as a force. He doesn't necessarily need to be the main villain like Tom Hardy was. I think he can still be used as a B villain but a very, very high caliber B villain. As someone that like a brute that Batman continually has to deal with over a main villain. Which is why the role I'm giving it to is not someone who is a top star because they're going to be wearing a mask. And I want to pick someone who already has the physicality of this. And first thing that popped in my head was John Cena and The Rock. But A, John Cena's Peacemaker, and B, The Rock is Black Adam. So they're out. Plus, you're not going to cover their faces. You're just not. The third option was Dave Bautista as Bane. But he's already Bautista's 53 years old. Now, granted, he's still built fantastically, and he's a great actor. But I wanted to go someone a little bit younger, so that way they could have the physicality of the stunt work and the role, and be able to do some crazy shit with Pattinson. And so for me, I picked someone who I think is built like a brick house. We know can put on a decent performance, but not a top star caliber performance, but a good B villain performance, and that is Florian Matinu. He played he was in Creed 2. He played Ivan Drago's son.
Oh yeah, and he was in Shang-Chi as well.
He was in Shang-Chi as whatever you want to call his name, something.
I think his name like
Razor Fist,
something
like that. I think he's built phenomenally. If you've seen Creed 2, the dude is fucking jacked. And I think he put a mask on him. He doesn't have to speak a whole lot, but he can do act, direct your drama very well. I mean, he made me feel for the Dragos in Creed 2. His heartbreak when he looks back and he sees his mom's no longer in the chair during that fight. I bought into it. And I think he was very, very solid in Shang-Chi as well. And I think that he could be a very good Bane overall. I think physicality-wise, he would fit it perfectly. Who is you? I'm really interested to see where you're going with Bane.
Bane is one I had another hard time going with because, like, I mean, you have the comic books where he's drawn as like this gigantic beast, like more muscles than any person could ever have in their body, just exaggerated to the nth degree. So it's obviously there's nobody that can fit that role. Then you had the movie versions, which range from lucha wrestler to in Batman and Robin to Tom Hardy's, obviously, and like you said, there's the one in the Harley Quinn show, things like that. So it's all a matter of what they're going for. Now, if they're going to go for just like big like somebody's muscle, like somebody's henchman, basically, then you want somebody with big size. They don't have to be a great actor; they just have to be able to like be intimidating and fight. And I actually decided to go with Nathan Jones, who was in Troy. He was in Mad Max Fury Road.
And he was a pro wrestler.
Yeah, he was a pro wrestler, yeah. But I mean, he's a guy, but this is not if they're going to use him as a primary villain, not if he's going to have a lot of dialogue, things like that to use. He makes a good, big, tough henchman that's going to just intimidate and, beat somebody's ass until they, come up with a way to beat him. So I went with him. Honestly, I'm not 100% sold on that pick, but it was, if they went for that version of it, that's the best I could come up with.
I literally just came up with someone else.
Do you want to go ahead with yours? Go ahead.
I don't know how to. I don't know the guy's name. I was literally trying to look it up, and I think I got the character name, and I didn't get the actor's name.
You want to tell me something? I can help you.
Mountain from Game of Thrones.
Oh, not yeah.
Don't let him talk that, because I don't think he's really good at
again, if they're using him as like the henchman and not trying to make him like the Tom Hardy main villain.
The fucking mountain. I mean, you want to talk about intimidating? The mountain is intimidating.
He was literally the world's strongest man in for several years running, I think.
If you're not going to give him any speaking roles, I can't find the actor's name. But if I was going to give a role to somebody, I would give it to him.
I can't even pronounce this name. That's why.
Yeah, I think I saw the name and I was like, I'm not even.
Julius Bjornsson.
Yeah,
something like that.
I think that he calls himself Thor Bjornsson.
I think you're right.
But yeah,
I can see him play.
I would, if I wasn't going to give it any speaking lines, and he was just going to be, then absolutely him. If we're going to have some speaking lines, then I would give it to Florian. And then you would give it to. I'm sorry, who would you pick? I was so busy trying to find the mountain.
I hadn't said yet. If they're going to make him a smaller guy, obviously he's still going to have muscles. But if they're going to go like more the Tom Hardy route, where he's got muscles, but he's a normal sized guy. I mean, even Tom as Bane didn't bulk up that much. A lot of it was the coats and things he's wearing. But if you're gonna have muscles, you're gonna have somebody who's gonna
a lot of work.
You're gonna have somebody who's gonna talk a lot more, who's gonna give Batman and shit, thing like that. I actually went with somebody who no one's gonna agree with me on this one. Josh Lawson, who played Kano in Mortal Kombat recently.
Oh my god!
If you're gonna play him, there's this, a small, more realistic version of him, and he's gonna be a lot more talking. I just like the way he kind of works with that.
I don't know if I can buy it. That's my second one. Of like, I can't. I don't know if I can go with you on that one.
I didn't love any of my Bane picks, so I don't care if you tear them apart.
Okay. Was that your only one? Was Josh Larson?
That's all I had. I had such a hard time with Bane.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I would go with the Mountain or Florian or Batista. I'm really intrigued by the next two, because these are the ones that you were spending the most time trying to figure out, and that's the Al Ghuls, Ra's al Ghul and Talia al Ghul. We'll just kind of put them together because they are hand in hand. This is probably the one where I probably didn't really follow the age thing like I should have. Granted, I've got 3 picks for Ra's, and I went the younger route. So instead of treating him almost as like a uncle father figure to Bruce, I kind of went more like the older brother route. Now, granted, Ra's he constantly goes into the Lazarus pit and becomes immortal. And so I'm going off more of the route that the Lazarus pit also makes you look younger with my pick. But my honorable mentions, and this one would be a perfect Ra's if he could get in shape for it. But we just saw him in a movie last year, and I'm not saying he's like overweight fat, but I'm just like, I don't think he could do fight scenes with Pattinson, and that's Jimmy Smits. We saw him in The Heights. I mean, he's an older one. I think that would work, but I don't think Jimmy Smits is really like, hey, yeah, let's get you in shape to play Ra's al Ghul. I don't think Jimmy Smits is going to do it. Number 2 is, you brought him up before the show, and I was like, he actually would be a really good Ra's al Ghul, and that's Javier Bardem. And we know he can get in shape for the role. But I didn't go that route. Instead, I went with, like I said, kind of the older brother. In terms of age, he's I think 5 to 7 years older than Pattinson in real life. But he's played a villain role before, and it was laughed at very, very harshly. And so I want to give him a redo and say, hey, we realized that this wasn't your fault. This was bad directing, bad script, bad costumes. Here's your chance with Matthew Reeves to retake a great villain role, and that's Oscar Isaac. I think Oscar Isaac, I think he could play kind of like this good mentor role to Pattinson. Like I said, more like the older brother, or less like kind of like an old man thing. And he's got that swagger to teach Pattinson how to be Batman, but then also could turn on him and become a villain. And I did the age thing with Talia. He would have to, he'd be like 17 when he'd have Talia, because that's, I think, that the difference in age.
Or it could just be because that chamber, he's making himself look younger.
Exactly. I'm talking about the actor, actress. They're 17 years apart. So it's not like, well, how the hell would he play her father kind of thing. For me, the actress, I like I said, I had Anya de Armas at first, but then I was like, that age doesn't match with Oscar Isaac to be her daughter. So that's why I had to go with someone else. I had this girl as Batwoman. I had her as Poison Ivy. And then finally, based off the ages, I picked her for Talia. And I don't think you'll know her. but anyone who's been watching this Netflix series will know her in a heartbeat, and that's Anya Chalotra from The Witcher. She plays Yennefer. She is gorgeous, just flipping beautiful beyond belief, and I would love to see her as Talia. And potentially, if they're going to go to the route of her and Pattinson potentially hooking up and maybe even getting a Damian Wayne out of the equation, Anya is a gorgeous woman who I would love to see as Talia al Ghul. We know she can fight because we've seen her fight in The Witcher. I know he's looking her up right now because
I'm looking at her.
He doesn't watch The Witcher, so he doesn't know. So she could definitely play the role. Like I said, she could also be a fantastic Batwoman. I would put her as a Batwoman too, but I just really, really wanted Zoe Deutsch. I think she probably would play Batwoman a lot better than Zoe Deutsch, though. But I think as Talia al Ghul, I think she has that assassin ninja badassery, plus as a perfect foil villain for Pattinson in the film as well. So Oscar Isaac with Anya Chalotra as the daughter and potential love interest in the future for Pattinson's Batman. Did you finally get to see who I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, I found it. I was looking.
Okay. Yeah.
I could see it.
All right, so who's your Roz and Talia? Because you don't really know Roz and Talia that well.
I'm not now. Honestly, before I saw Batman Begins, I'd never heard of Ra's al Ghul, never. So when this big reveal that he's that, I'm like, okay, cool. And then had never heard of Talia before they bring in the daughter. I'm like, oh, okay, who's this supposed to be? His daughter? Okay, cool. Because I did never heard of the characters before them. So that's kind of my only information on them. I did look up a little bit of information, kind of trying to find out who they were, to try and help me cast these. But based on what I did know, I did try to go for the age because I actually had Talia first, and I'm like, no, I got to find somebody who can be her father. And now there's the whole thing where I could be closer because he could be rejuvenating himself, things like that. But so I ended up trying to pick an older actor. And this is a guy who can play a villain, can play a good guy. He has played both. He can do action. Recently, even he's still been doing some action. And he's gotten to play kind of the other side of that, where he was the protege being taught by the old version. And that is Antonio Banderas. In Zorro, he kind of played the other side of that. So
is that your pick or is that your runner-up?
That's my pick.
I saw Antonio pop up on a few lists, and I go, if he hadn't failed at being a villain in Uncharted and Hitman Wife's Bodyguard, I would have picked him in a heartbeat, but he has failed in back-to-back villain roles for me, and that's why I didn't pick him.
Neither time do I think it failed because of him.
No, I'm not blaming Antonio for either one of those. It's just that's two villain roles that he's not done well.
But again, I'm
not a bad pick. It's not a bad pick.
Like your pick, like you screwed up here, you can give another chance to show that you can be the villain here. But I think that he'd be a good match for him. I think the age works. I think the personality works, and I think it also works good with my choice for Talia, who first of all, I Anna de Armas I considered for this. My other runner-up I have for Talia was Sophia Boutella. Playing this, but the person I went with is somebody who I considered for Batwoman. I considered for Poison Ivy, and I would be fine. Actually, she'd almost be my number one pick for all these almost, except I had to pick one. And that's somebody who is gorgeous, who can be Antonio Banderas' daughter, who has done action and can do action, who has played good guys and bad guys, and that is the gorgeous Isa Gonzalez.
Of course you got Isa Gonzalez.
Also from Baby Driver. Also from Ambulance coming up. She was in Bloodshot. She's was in From Dusk Till Dawn, the TV series. She did that.
Yep.
Godzilla vs. Kong. So I mean, she's done a lot of stuff. But I just think that she's somebody who definitely has that attractiveness, that sultriness, that you can believe a relationship with her and Bruce Wayne. I think that she could be convincing as a villain, and I think it works with Antonio.
Brian managed to hit his trifecta. He managed to hit all three of the girls that he's got the biggest crush on: Zoe Deutsch, Anna de Armas, and Gonzalez.
Hey, look behind you. It's called Dreamcast.
You managed to hit his trilogy.
Actually, it even says Fantasy Dreamcast, doesn't it?
It does say fantasy.
There you go.
I don't hate it. I really don't hate it. She actually would be a pretty solid choice, I think, because yes, you're right. She's done the action. She would be really good. And honestly, when you said her, I was like, fuck, that actually would be a pretty good pick. Because the one Talia that I've seen, I'm not counting
Marion Cotillard.
Yeah, I was gonna butcher the name, so I knew you eventually were gonna give me this. I'm blanking on the actress' name. She played Talia in the Arrowverse. She was actually really, really good in it. She was in Spartacus, the TV series. It's gonna take too long for me to find her name real quick. I'll put a picture up right now. You guys will know who I'm talking about.
Alexa Doig?
What's that?
Alexa.
No meeting on the calendar.
I apologize. Alexa just thought I was talking to her.
That's like the third time that your Alexa's interrupted the show.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, she was a really good Talia on the Arrowverse. Like I said, I put her picture up, so you guys know who I'm talking about. But yeah, I think both of our picks. I went younger than Gonzalez, but I think both of them would be a great Talia. I'm loving our casting for almost every one. I just can't buy Dinklage or.
Well, I was not happy with my Bane choices. I'll tell you that up front.
Yeah, and your Bane. Who's your Bane again?
Josh Lawson or
Josh Lawson?
Nathan
No,
Jones?
I can't buy Josh Lawson. All right, so now we go to the main event. Obviously, there would be no Batman without Joker. There would be no Batman movies without Joker. And that is why he's our last pick. Like I said, I got 3 picks for Joker. My 2 honorable mentions were also my backups for Zaz, or Victor Zaz. So that's why I didn't mention them earlier. I think both of these guys would be perfect Jokers, but this is my fantasy Dreamcast, just like it was for Brian picking his 3 ladies. And this is the person I picked is the person I've always wanted to play Joker. I've wanted him to play Joker since 1994. And I will keep picking this guy to play Joker. But my honorable mentions are 2 people that we both also really, really love. And I would have, like I said, we already mentioned Oliphant, but he wasn't on my choices. But my 2 backups are Sam Rockwell. If he remotely plays even remotely close to Green Miles, his Green Mile character, but to the nth degree, I think he'd be a fantastic Joker. And Walton Goggins would be a fantastic Joker. I think he'd be a better Victor Zaz, but if you want to kind of go, Walton, I'm pushing you to the lead role. I think he'd be a great Joker. But my pick is which is a fan pick for everyone. This is the equivalent of like Nathan Fillion as Nathan Drake in Uncharted. Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe's Joker. Now, had he not just killed it as Green Goblin in Spider-Man No Way Home, I would have said no, he's too old. But he can clearly still do the physical stunts. He loves to do the physical stunts. He can clearly do the fighting scenes because those fighting scenes against Tom Holland in Spider-Man No Way Home were brutal and fantastic, and I want to see him fight Robert Pattinson. I think he looks the most like the Joker in my eyes. I mean, look at the fan art. I'm posting them right now on here. Look at the fan art of Willem Dafoe as a Joker. He looks terrifying in the best way possible. And the way I would introduce this Joker into the franchise is I wouldn't put him in the first film, obviously. I wouldn't even put him in the second film. He would be the cliffhanger at the end of the third film of the trilogy to try to push everyone to make more films after the third movie. He's a guy.
I'm looking at it from the business perspective.
Exactly. Going, Pattinson, come on, we got Willem Dafoe's Joker. You got to come on. Because they were together in The Lighthouse. They love working together. Push Pattinson to come back and keep continuing with Dafoe as Joker. You put Joker as like this older guy. You can play off the Killing Joke. Dude was down on his luck. He tried to be a comedian. He sucked. He wasn't good. He got in with the bad people. And he's watching this world of Batman and all these villains who are cartoonish kind of characters, Mr. Freeze, Bane, Two-Face. And he finally snaps and decides, I'm going to be this clown prince of crime. and thus the end of the third film for Batman is the birth of the Joker and pushes it from then on. That's how I would do it, and that's why I think Dafoe would be the perfect Joker. Even at his age, he's proven because of Spider-Man No Way Home that he can still do these roles. But I'm intrigued by where you're going with your Joker, though.
Well, first let me say, I did not pick Willem Dafoe. I can totally see
I
it.
know you totally went younger.
I can totally see it. I can see his face. It worked perfect. I've seen the fan art. It worked perfect for it. I think that the fact that he came back in Spider-Man hurt his chances. If we were 15 years removed from his last performance as Green Goblin, then you're like, okay.
But you got to think of it this way. This would be the third Batman film. So we're talking 5-6 years from now.
But he's already up there in age. How long are you going to push him?
It's Dafoe. He's such a method actor. He will keep going.
So, I mean, no, I have no problem with him as the pick. I just think that in the reality that we're in, I think the fact that he has just came back to play Goblin, probably for the best time he's ever played him, people be like, oh, he's just doing the same thing, But I totally see and respect the pick. First of all, I would like to say I think they completely wasted who could have been a great Joker, and not wasted, but they already used him, and that's Andy Serkis, but they cast him as Alfred.
I don't agree with that. That's
picture him like when he's playing Claw in Black Panther or whatever, and just just even the Gollum faces he makes when you've seen because everyone's seen the behind the scenes footage as he's doing the voices motion capture for him. He totally has that evil look on his face. He could play Joker perfectly, but I was not going to use him because he's Alfred in this universe. I had considered several that were kind of the over the top goofy Joker. Like I said, Tom Hiddleston, I think would be perfect for that. I think Sam Rockwell would be good for that. Even Walton Goggins, I think, falls more into that side of things, but I can see him doing both sides. But clearly, obviously, they've shown us with the Riddler, they aren't going for that kind of tone, and with their villains in this movie, they're going for more of a, serious, sinister kind of look. So I had three names. One of my runners-up, who this would be if they're going for a very dark kind of Heath Ledger kind of Joker, and that's Caleb Landry Jones, who's done some Get Out, 3 Billboards. He was Banshee in X-Men First Class. But I think he just has the look. I mean, if you just go and look up images of him, he has that same kind of Heath Ledger look. I could totally see him playing if they were going to go for that same type of Joker. But he was just a runner-up. The next person, who actually was my number one choice for a long time, another Game of Thrones alum. This one, I believe it's pronounced Iwan Rheon. He played Ramsay Bolton. On Game of Thrones. He's obviously just a twisted, demented fuck. Well, I don't know the actor is, but he plays characters well who are.
Yeah, he plays the role really convincingly.
He's just, sadistic. He's evil. He likes to play games with people. He has that look in his eyes where even if he's just ordering a sandwich, he just still looks like he's crazy and evil. And so I could totally see him playing it. And he actually was my number one pick up until today, when I realized, how did I not think of this person before? And this is somebody who's actually going to be entering the MCU in the near future. And it is someone who almost played a similar character. It's Will Poulter. Will Poulter, who is going to be playing Adam, what's his name? In what's that?
It's Adam.
Is it just Adam?
Adam Warlock.
Adam Warlock. Thank you, Warlock. That's the name of it. In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. You've probably seen him in things like Maze Runner. You've seen him in he's Miller, some other things like that. But Will Poulter was cast. He was going to be Pennywise in the It series. He had to drop out for, I think, scheduling conflicts or something. I don't remember why exactly what happened, but they replaced him with Bill Skarsgård, who did a great job. But Will Poulter, when I heard him as Pennywise, I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect, because he just has that face. He does.
He's got the demented look.
He's got that demented Joker face to him. So when I think about Joker, I'm like, well, this is the perfect chance to kind of get to play that role he didn't get to play before, and he can play it darker. He can play it intimidating. This is a guy who you don't realize. This guy is I think 6'3", something like that.
He's small.
He's a big guy, but I think he can play intimidating, so he can do the fight scenes. I think that he can play the evil right. I think he's got the face for it. So, and again, an actor who I just want to see get more work.
You know what? I totally thought you were going to say Taylor Lautner and just go, I want a Twilight reunion, but you went Will Poulter. Hey, his acting's a joke. I just thought he was gonna go real method with it. But no, Will Poulter's actually a really solid pick. I didn't even think of him. Caleb Landry Jones popped up in my brain. But yeah, I definitely did not think of Will Poulter. That actually is a really solid pick. If definitely we think of the younger route, I definitely wouldn't hate that. So yeah, those are our fantasy dreamcasts. If we could just get even like 20% correct on these, I think you and I will be pretty excited.
Well, let me look real quick at my list. I think of my picks, the ones that have any serious chance of happening. You know what? I think a lot of them. I mean, not Bane.
No, not Bane and not Mr. Freeze.
I think they can go out first. Freeze. I think Talia's got a chance. I think Joker's got a chance, although maybe not if he does, because he's doing Guardians of the Galaxy. I think Poison Ivy's got a chance for Natalie Dormer. I definitely think Jon Hamm. They'd be stupid not to try to use him for Two-Face. And Zaz, I'd love to see James Badge Dale. I don't think we'll see Zoe Deutsch though.
No, we won't see Zoe Deutsch. I would love for Anya as Talia, but I could also see her as Batwoman, and I think she'd be a fantastic Batwoman.
I could see that.
What's that?
Yes, I could see that.
Yeah, Ana de Armas, I could see her in any role, whether it be Talia or Poison Ivy. I'd be fine with. I can totally see, like I said, Jon Hamm and Mark Strong as Freeze and Batman, Two-Face. Like I said, the Mountain. Or Florian as a Bane character, I think would work. My Roz obviously probably won't happen. They will not pick Oscar Isaac to play Ra's al Ghul. That will definitely not happen. I can see Javier Bardem before.
Since Moon Knight is largely a Batman knockoff. So.
Yeah, I did forget about Moon Knight. I did forget about that. So yeah, Javier Bardem I can definitely see. Not Oscar Isaac. That's more just fantasy. Same thing with Zoe. Or even Caitlyn Beaver. I just think the tone of the film, they probably will go with someone different. Right. Asa Butterfield, I would love for them to pick him, but I think he's so in like the comedy of Netflix with Sex Education that they probably won't even look at him for that role. But I do really, really like Toby Kebbel for Zaz. I think Matthew Reeves, because of their connections, I think that would be a pretty.
Toby's somebody I considered for probably 4 different roles that we were talking about.
Toby is so good and underappreciated by so many people that he could be Joker. He has the ability to be a Joker. I just don't think they would ever cast him as Joker because you got to have a name. And Toby,
well, that's the problem is like he's another one of those guys who gets small roles in big films and big roles in small films. I've gone and seen these movies like where he's finally going to be the star of this movie, and it's like Ben-Hur remake and what's the other one? Hurricane Heist. You know, and these are movies. Honestly, I'll be honest, I enjoyed these movies, but it's like they weren't going to make him a star.
But then you talk about like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and they're like, dude, Toby Kebbel was amazing in that film. And then
you watch that mocap footage of them doing that.
And then I'm pretty sure he did the mocap for King Kong Skull Island too. I think he was Kong. Yeah, he was Kong for that, and I think he was also Kong for Kong vs. Godzilla. So it's like he has the ability to do the physicality, and he's got the acting chops. He just is not good at picking the roles. And I think Matthew Reeves would be like, I'll help you get.
If anybody would, it'd be him.
Yeah, it's like I trust Matthew Reeves with whatever his choices. Like I said, the most confusing pick for me was Colin Farrell as Penguin, but then they basically transformed him into looking almost like a fucking Tony Soprano, you know, kind of James Gandolfini look. So I was like, okay, well, I don't see Colin Farrell, but then it's like I also don't see Colin Farrell now as Penguin. So you can Matthew Reeves proves like I'll take anybody and I'll make them look what I want them to look. So yeah, it's like I said, this is also big fantasy casting. Like I said, Brian and I are hoping to do this with other films down the road. What would you guys like to see us do? Like, what movies would you like to see us do a fantasy casting of? Maybe we'll do this again when we talk about franchises. I know we're gonna be doing like Middle Earth down the road. Maybe we'll recast the Lord of the Rings or something like that. That would be a fun one.
A long list.
It'd be a really long list. It'd be long
for every character.
Everyone. But we're definitely gonna do this again. This is something that we have a lot of fun talking about. Clearly, you've seen this. So, like we have a lot of fun talking about the what ifs and potential of stuff like that. So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, subscribe to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop out in the Movie Crusaders. And of course, you can follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming out or coming up next, obviously the Batman spoiler and non-spoiler review. I'll do the non-spoiler, and then Brian will be back for the spoiler review. I'm hoping this is a Spider-Man No Way Home situation where Brian was like, I am so not looking forward. It's probably going to be good, but I'm not looking forward to it. And have him go, this is the best movie of the year kind of situation. I'm hoping that's what we get out of that. But who knows? We'll find out on Thursday or Friday when we shoot the thing. I'm seeing the first show on Thursday. I'm seeing it like at 3 o'clock. So a lot of it depends on when Brian gets to see it.
I'm seeing it Wednesday night.
So you're going to see it before me. Shh, don't you dare send me anything. He's gonna be like, this movie fucking sucked. And then it ends up being awesome. It's going to be a very interesting spoiler review if he didn't like it and I loved it, which is the reason why we didn't do a Scream spoiler review.
It'd be even more interesting if you didn't like it and I did.
Yes, which is what happened. Like I said, that was the Scream thing. Is we both were excited to love it, and he liked Scream, and I wasn't a fan of Scream, and we decided just to not do a spoiler review for it because it was like we're just going to keep contradicting each other the whole way through. So
honestly, the more I've thought about it, my opinion of it's gone down, though. So
good. Feed into
not to your point, but I do need to rewatch.
Into the hate. Scream is not a good movie. It's not bad. It's. I was really, really disappointed in it. But yeah, next we're obviously going into our second month of this new show format. Shockingly, the months or the Fridays all have the same dates as February. So today or whenever the heck I'm releasing this, March 4th, we're gonna be doing another topic show the Movie Crusaders chat about, where we're actually going to be talking about the potential death of the movie theater experience. Why are people choosing to not go to the movie theaters as much anymore? Now, granted, we're all going to go see the Batman, so it's kind of contradictory what we're talking about right now. But why are people more resilient to go to the theaters now? Why does everyone want to stay home and watch it through streaming, HBO Max, Netflix, stuff like that? Why are the reasons? Why do people choose to? And where do we fit in this? Do we are we in the middle where we're kind of both, or are we like Brian, we're like, no, everything has to be in a theater? That's what we're going to chat about on that episode. I mean, like I said, I'm throwing everything out there just for what it is. But that's what we're going to be chatting about on the 4th. So be on the lookout for that episode. Week after that, we're going to have our second episode of the Actor, Actress, Director Showcase. We're still looking for a new name for that. We're going to be talking about Bruce Willis, Sandra Bullock, and Edgar Wright, right? We said Edgar Wright.
Yes.
Yeah, Edgar Wright. That's going to be a fun episode. On the 18th, Brian and I are going to have our very own awards show. We're still pending on what the name's going to be for what we're going to call our awards. Can't do the Dundies because The Office did that. But it's going to be our version of the Oscars, where we're going to pick our favorite, our best picture, best performances, best horror film, best comedy film, whatever fun, unique categories we can think of. We will be doing it on that show. And then on March 25th, we're going to be doing the Movie Crusaders Oscars, where we're going to pick our choices for best supporting actor, actress, best actor, best actress, best director, best picture. And then we're also going to give our predictions for the Oscars that comes out on March 27th. So that's our slate for the March shows. We hope you check out all of those, as well as all the other movies that are be coming out for that month, where we're going to be doing the reviews for everything. But like I said, the Batman's this weekend. You'll be seeing us again here with the spoiler review. Hope you guys tune in for that as well. Once again, we are the Movie Crusaders. My name is Sean Waskrug. That is Brian Michaels. And until next time, in case we don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.